Hey, Slay Nation, it's your host, Heather, back with another episode of the So She Slays podcast. I am excited to have Michelle Campbell in the studio today. She is the founder of the social services nonprofit hashtag Stability. She is also she founded her own financial services firm specializing in tax resolution. It's called Tax Shell, which is cute because your name's Michelle. A little fun play there. And then you are here to kind of talk to us too about your book that you just released, which is a memoir, Bluebird, a memoir of trauma, heartbreak, and divine beauty in the struggle. And if anybody's taken a chance to look at the synopsis of your book, which by the way you can find on Amazon, I was blown away because I was just like, Jiminy freaking Christmas. That's a lot. And I mean, I don't mean a lot in a bad way, but you've turned some shit around. And that takes a lot of hard work. So I'm excited to kind of dive into exactly I mean, you've gone through toxic relationships, you've gone through all sorts of different kinds of trauma as far as goodness, financial, bankruptcies, $1 million in debt. There's so much. And so we're going to get to that. But before I do, I'm going to toss it to Michelle to kind of intro herself a little bit more because there's a lot of financial things I want to ask you in the aspect of we're getting ready. You know, a lot of people are like, oh, we're in a recession or we're headed for a recession. People are freaked out financially. But I also want to touch on in your specialties of how do we prep ourselves long term? I know some of our audience might have kids. I know some of us are just oh shit, we should have started X, Y, and Z financial goals earlier. Or what are the things about financial literacy that we just don't know because we're not taught? And I know you being a Black woman and myself being an Asian American woman, there are some things attached to that where we're just not, we're not privy to certain information that would be nice to have. So that's kind of an overview, but before we dive into the conversation, Michelle, just give us a quick synopsis about your book and what you're doing right now. And then we're going to dive into this conversation.
Sure. So thank you so much for having me, Heather. I'm really excited. And I mean, you basically covered it, but yeah, the memoir, I just really wanted at the end of the day, if I could reach one person to let them know that you're not alone. And the one thing that we don't talk about is the one thing that actually connects us. And so I felt like sharing my story and just trying to be transparent in it would overall help other people throughout whatever they're going through. By no means am I saying that I've been through the worst of the worst because, there's all kinds of different traumas that you can go through. But I feel like I touched on a ton of big things, with and things that people won't talk to you about. No one's gonna, at work tell you, my car got repossessed this morning and that's why I was late. No one's gonna admit things like that. So as scary as it was, that just getting over my fear in that moment of transparency, immediately helped me feel better and empowered me to then help other people through whatever it is that they're going on, and just basically let them know that you're not alone. You can get through it. And one foot in front of the other.
I know. Well, and your description of your book, because I'm looking at my notes right now. The description of some of the books right now of your book is traumas begin 5 evictions, 4 repossessed cars, 3 bankruptcies, 2 abortions, a sexual assault, and $500,000 in debt. Holy shit!
It's a lot for one person.
For you're a young person. I mean, that's a lot of life. Okay, that's a lot of life things right there.
It is. It is. It blows my mind every time someone else repeats it or I read back through it. I'm just like, oh my gosh, how did I ever survive that? Because now it's almost like it was a bad dream. And I remember it, but it's almost like I don't remember it because at the end, then I found why I had to go through all of that. So.
Okay, and we're gonna touch on this for a second. I know in the pre little interview thing I gave you, I felt like we were gonna do this a different way, but We're still talking about all the topics, but I want to
Right.
sit here for a second because I feel
Okay.
like in going through all of the things that we just listed and you
Hmm.
pivoted, you
Hmm.
turned it around. I mean, you have your own business. You have two. I mean, you founded two. Um, you managed to get yourself out, but you just said, I went through this for like a reason. Like I know why now I had to go through all of that. Okay,
Right.
can we touch on this for a second? Like what
Absolutely.
exactly do you mean?
So there's two sides of it that I see. And so one side of it was, I mean, I just made some bad choices sometimes. All of it wasn't because I was being reckless or not being responsible or like just, messing up money. I mean, the the bankruptcies, I remember the attorney like did not want me to file the very first bankruptcy. He's like, you don't have enough debt, let alone delinquent debt, to even declare bankruptcy. But I only filed the bankruptcy to keep a vehicle because at the time I drove for work. And so I needed a vehicle to drive. And I had no other way to get a car or get a different car. So I filed bankruptcy to keep my car so that it would get out of repossession. And because I kept defaulting on the bankruptcy
Mm,
because the car needed repairs. And so it was like, which one do you attack first? If you don't repair the car, then you can't drive it for work. And if you pay the bankruptcy payment to keep the car, then it's not safe to drive for work. So which one do you pay? And so that's why it kept defaulting. It wasn't all recklessness. I mean, there really was a method to the madness. And I don't know, maybe there was a smarter way to do it. I didn't know one at the time, but so there's that side of it. But then the other side was I found at the end, because that was my very question, like, what am I doing to deserve this? Is this karma or is this, because
girl,
I
that's what I would have thought. I've been like, what
know.
karmic gods are making me pay for past life trauma?
Exactly. And I mean, I wasn't going out. I wasn't hanging out with friends. I was not shopping. I had a very, very strict, tight budget. It just did not add up. It didn't make sense until it did. And then I realized that I went through that to help the very people that I would later, through my nonprofit, be ordained to go and help. So if I wouldn't have gone through it, there'd be no way that one, I would see that there was a break in our system as far as social services are involved and who are the first people that they're awarded to. And I wouldn't have any compassion or be able to relate to their situation because I hadn't been through it. So now if someone is like, I'm homeless, I got evicted, I know exactly what that feels like and I know what you're going through.
Mm, jeez. uh with this like turner, like, okay, I know I feel like this one topic could be a whole like podcast in
Hmm.
itself, but I'm so interested. How did you turn it around? What did you do? What were the first freaking steps? Because I feel like sometimes the first steps in which we talk to people about these things are like, well, you get a good paying job, you do that, you know what I mean? It's like you try to like logically from the avenues that were taught, but I feel like you were saying like you didn't put yourself in any situations that were just like
Yeah.
totally ridiculous, so how did you go about turning that around?
So I literally was grounded because I was experiencing the fourth repossession. And so I couldn't go anywhere. Like I couldn't work. And I mean, my life just felt like Groundhog Day. I was like, why? The same things kept happening over and over and over. And I'm thinking, how do I get out of this vicious cycle? So I was just grounded. I had to be at home. And I immediately, the only thing I knew to do was to reach deep spiritually and try to figure this out. So because I couldn't go anywhere and I was stuck in my house, I put myself on cold turkey on this 21-day spiritual fast. And I just meditated and journaled and prayed and really like tried to think about, when did this start? How did this start? How did this get this bad? Why is this happening? And seriously, almost supernaturally, my answers started coming. And that's how I realized that I wasn't, I went through this to help other people eventually. I didn't see that then, but that's why I was going through it. And then just things started happening like that were out of my control. Like all of a sudden, I knew I had a utility bill coming up and logged in online to make the payment, and there was a mysterious credit applied. So I didn't have a bill. And then um, took a leap of faith. And even though my car had just gotten repossessed a few days before, I'm like, let me see if I can get another vehicle. I was approved to get a better vehicle where I wouldn't have had all those repairs and everything that were holding me back. And so then I didn't need to go back into the bankruptcy. And then some money that was owed to me was deposited a few days early. Like things just started working out, but it was, I feel like the very first step, and this should be everybody's step, is just that moment of honesty with yourself. And, I love William Shakespeare and his quote, to thine own self be true. And we're always talking about, oh, I'm keeping it 100, I'm keeping it 100. But no, you're not. Like, if you don't know your credit score, if you don't know actually how much debt you have, like if you just keep putting your head in the sand and running from it. And so it was sitting down, putting things in a spreadsheet, seeing what I had, and accepting it, like, okay,
Mm.
this is what it is, but how do I get out? But then just other things started happening. And I called and I made arrangements on some bills. I was got another position and was offered more money. Things just started falling in place.
Jeez. Okay. I already know what some people are going to be thinking in the freaking
Yeah,
audience. They're going to be like,
exactly.
wait, they're going to be like, okay, you did a 21-day fasting and
Yeah, and that
and
fixed it.
and then divine intervention. I feel like some people are going to be, look, I'm a big fan of divine intervention. But I know some people are going to be like, I got bills to pay.
Hmm.
I got
I
mouths
know.
to feed.
I know.
So I just think, like, I mean, love that that's kind of how it came to you. I kind of feel like, answers come to you in the ways in which you're ready for them, like you understand them, and
Mhm.
you seem like that is what exactly happened. For the people who are like, okay, well, I'm not going to be able to 21-day fast, or meditate and all this kind of stuff, like, to thine own self be true for sure. What are some tangibles? Like, what do we need to look at? Because I think too there's going to be like, all right, well, what debt do I need to start paying off first? What's my interest?
Right.
What's this? You know what I mean? So I kind
Right.
of feel like, if there a formula of like, what do I need to do?
Yeah. So I know that a fast isn't going to work for everybody, but I what I
Hey,
what I
I'm for
what
it.
I'm
If it
trying
did
to
work
say.
for everybody, Lord knows.
Right. Right. No, no, what I'm really trying to say is just be honest. You have to start with that moment of honesty with yourself and tell yourself the truth, regardless of what you want everybody else to believe. And it's facing that reality of whatever it is you're going through. That changes a lot. And actually just thinking about what it's supposed to guide you towards or what it means, in the, like, why is this happening? Everything happens for a reason. I really do believe that. So that's just one side of it. But as far as the tangible side, I mean, for me, it was opening up years of unopened mail because, I was in survival mode for so long. And so if it was a credit card bill or something, like, I'm not paying it because I needed to pay for shelter and I need to pay for food and I need to pay for the vehicle and the things that would keep me alive. I couldn't pay a credit card, so
Mhm.
it was making that spreadsheet, seeing what I owed. And actually, lenders, creditors are more willing than we think. The only time that I found that they really get nasty is when you avoid them and you're not calling them. But if you keep the lines of communication open with them, let them know what's going on, usually they're more than willing to work with you and renegotiate something, consolidate something, just help you out in that way. But it was knowing my numbers. It was facing that. It was, downloading my credit report, seeing what I was dealing with, seeing what was on there, making that spreadsheet of all the bills that I had due and seeing what payment arrangements I could work out with them. Seeing where I was spending extra money that didn't need to be spent. Like, I canceled almost every streaming service that I had that at the time I thought was a necessity. I mean, because you don't think twice about $5 a month, $7 a month. I mean, you just don't. But when I added it up, it was like a quarter of a payment that needed to be paid. And I'm thinking, wow. So it was just those tiny steps and putting that together. And I mean, I've known how to budget for years, but you always feel like a budget doesn't work when you're underwater, but it still does because you have to know what you have coming in and what you have going out, and then what you can do without.
Mm, okay. Okay. I love that. I love that. I think that hits on a lot of things too, where it's like, I know people, especially right now, inflation, cost of like the economy. I know people are like, this job market is hideous right
Hmm.
now. There's a lot of, worry to, and that's like skimming it lightly.
Right. Yeah.
Worry, I don't know if that's exactly, people are probably freaked the fuck out. Like, what am I
Yeah.
doing? Nothing is like affordable anymore, credit card debt, all this kind of stuff. So it's like, I think that message definitely applies to some of that. But since you do work in in this financial world, and you do work with a
Mhm.
lot of different people, especially with your nonprofit in various stages of their financial journey, like, I'm so interested on what is your practical information and tips for surviving something like a recession, or how to get out when, out of debt when things are so expensive, and all. How do
Mhm.
we set ourselves up so that we don't freaking lose it all?
Right. So one of my, I say this almost at least once a day to somebody, is to ride the wave with whatever the economy is doing. And so even though the interest rates are bad, if you own a home and you still have a mortgage or you have property taxes, I mean, the interest is bad with that, but you can make a lot of money in interest right now in like high yield accounts, even with ETFs and with CDs, especially with CDs right now. We've had unheard of terms that like just have never presented themselves before. The traditional CD term would be anywhere from like 12 months to 18 months, maybe even 24 months before you could pull it out without penalty. Where now, depending on how much principal you have to invest, there are like 3 month rates, 6 month rates where you're making that money in 3 or 6 months, and then you can turn around and reinvest that interest. And so I always recommend writing that, use that to your advantage. And I am a fan of passive income. As
Girl, me
much passive
too.
income that you can create for yourself, do it. It's not as hard as you think. And the majority of passive income comes from interest, dividends. I know a lot of people don't like to play with the stock market, but that's why I say dividends, because at least you have something that is paying out quarterly that you can depend on. And that's
Mm,
just building up. That's almost like your little nest egg, that in case you need it. And that's important for people that don't have an emergency fund built up. You can actually, in the background, be building an emergency fund just through interest and dividends. And
wow.
because it's kind of out of sight and out of mind.
Which is one of my favorite things to, like,
Hmm.
I'm just like, out of sight, out of mind. I have enough life things on my brain.
Right.
I feel okay. So let's talk about this when we talk about passive income, ways to, make this money without actually having to like go out and work and all this kind of stuff. You still got to do that. Anybody who's trying to
Right.
work the corners, you still got to freaking do
Mhm.
that. So stop it. But there are other ways to like make quote unquote your money work for you, right?
Right.
So let's talk about that. What are like the top three, maybe five ways passive income you think people should be taking advantage of that they're not?
I think that if you have good credit, you should use it to leverage. You got to be responsible, of course, but the SBA, the Small Business Association, is basically just giving away money right now if you have a business idea and it's legitimate. And so, why not use their money, and why not use their no interest or no payment terms for whatever you qualify for to get something off the ground? Um, I'm a huge advocate of rental property because it not only is backup income monthly, but it's also awesome on a tax return just because of like the depreciation that it
Yeah.
builds. And it typically is going to come up as a loss. I hope everybody knows what a loss is, but a loss is just when on paper the business did not make money, which on a tax return will help reduce your taxable income. And so you want a loss, as many losses as you can get. Why pay tax on something if you can lower it by something else that is legitimate? So
Hmm.
those ways, I mean, because just because it's a rental doesn't mean that you have to be all hands in, everybody working. You can definitely get a third party to manage it, and that's an expense, which is
Got
good.
it. Okay.
Taking advantage of the investments that are making money for sure. And I honestly just feel like everybody needs some kind of side hustle. I mean, my dog has a business just because I knew that it was going to create a loss, at least for a few years, and that we could use that. And number two, I wanted to see if she could pay her own bills because
You're
she's
like,
kind of
look, provide some food, pull your weight. Your dog
exactly.
food's expensive.
Right. And I mean, it was just, well, let's see if this works. This is something that isn't out on the market. Let's see why, at worst case, it's going to create a loss. You don't make any business, which again is going to be good on a tax return.
Love that. I didn't know that about the small business
Yeah,
association.
they're just handing over money. I mean, of course, you need to get set up properly. It's like one of my biggest frustrations is, definitely reach out to the professionals. Don't just go online and start getting LLCs and everything because 9 times out of 10 they're not set up properly unless you know what you're doing. And
Mm,
then that messes you up on the tax side, and then you might have some people coming after you on the
yeah,
personal side.
yeah, yeah. Oh
So
my
yeah,
gosh, right. Yeah, definitely set yourself up correctly. But for the entrepreneurs that are in this, in our lovely So She Slays community here, that's something like, I mean, I didn't even know that.
yeah.
And I will probably be looking into that just to see what's happening.
Everybody has something that they know how to do or that they're good at, or it could just be a hobby that potentially could earn you money. If you didn't have your job to go to, I'm sure you would find a way to make whatever that is a stream of income for you. So why not do it now?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Agreed. Agreed. Okay. So we talked a little bit about how that passive income can come into play. We talked a little bit about your book. I really like in your book, you also definitely talk about like how wrong decisions early on can like lead to a lifetime of financial troubles. And I
Mhm.
know there's so much anxiety about like if you're a parent teaching your kids about money, whether it's right or wrong or whatever, because some people are just like, well, they're kids, they shouldn't worry about money. If you're my parents taught me about money when I was like 5 years old.
That's awesome.
So they were like, you want an allowance? You gotta work for it. My
Mhm.
$2 a week. Way back when. But I think too, when it comes to like financial literacy and like, starting off early, I think there's anxiety about, okay, I didn't do that. Am I screwed? Or, oh, what do I need to do? I'm at the age where I should probably start doing something. What do I
Right.
do?
Right. So we definitely need to start looking out for the younger generation, everybody combined. We're all interconnected, whether we like it or not.
Mm,
And everybody knows something that can help somebody else. I mean, you know it to help somebody else. It doesn't benefit you just for you to know it and to gatekeep. But on top of that, I mean, we also don't choose our families and our cultures and our backgrounds that we come into. And so you don't know what you don't know. I
true.
didn't come from a family that knew anything about what I happen to specialize in today. And so I didn't have anyone to teach it to me.
Mm,
And that was, almost like the start of the cycle of, I remember I talk about it in the book, my very first checking account. I knew that if you overdrafted an account that you would be charged an NSF fee, but I didn't know that you could potentially go to jail because of it. I just thought that you had to pay the $25.
I didn't know you could go to jail for it either.
Yes. In some
Learn
states,
something
yes.
new every day.
Yes. In some states, yes, it is considered a felony. Who would have known, right?
Oh my god.
Right. And then like I talk about in college and in the student union and how they had all those tables set up and they would give you, snacks and coupons and t-shirts and crap you didn't need if you just filled out a credit card application. And I'm thinking, how on earth are they approving now today? I'm thinking, how were they approving us for credit cards with no income, no employment, no, but you're approved with a new credit profile. Like you're approved for everything at 18. But if somebody doesn't teach you, the dangers of going over your credit limit and not being able to make more than the minimum payment because that sometimes doesn't pay the interest. And what is APR and interest? Like you just don't know what you don't know. And so that's one thing that I wanted to help with is, there is again, there's always two sides of everything. And so there's what you have and what you know, and maybe what you weren't given or being taught. But then there's the other side of don't be so afraid of the technical terms because once you understand them, then you can work with them instead of having them work against you. And so it's really just getting rid of that fear and accepting that, okay, I don't know it all and I might need some help. I'm in a little bit of trouble or I'm in a lot of trouble and I need to like just swallow my pride
Yeah.
and take that leap of faith and, be honest with myself first and then be honest with somebody else to tell them the situation so that I can get out of this.
Yeah, I think that's some of the issue right there, right? It's like, who do I go to for help? And are
Hmm.
they going to cost a butt ton of money? So that,
Hmm.
like, how do I pay a butt ton of money when I don't have the money to, like, that's why I'm in the situation.
Right. So, like with hashtag stability, we have videos that should be uploaded pretty soon that are almost like crash courses in about 20 different areas. Everything is free though. All of the resources are free. And then eventually we will have like online webinars and even like in person seminars to teach some of like just the things that I'm not going to say that they're complex because they might not be complex to some, might be complex to others, but just basic budgeting, just the basics of investing. I remember when I first learned investing, I felt so stupid because I didn't know why I didn't do it years ago. Like once I realized how easy it was, and everything doesn't have to be a risk investment. And that's like that, and you need a whole bunch of money. Those are the two misconceptions behind investing. So
Mhm.
I felt like, I learned all of this and of course, learned it to give back. In the beginning, I didn't know that I was learning it to give back. I just knew that I liked
You
numbers
just
and
kept
I
doing
liked
it.
money and I wanted to learn. Yeah. But eventually life took me in the path where I was going to be able to give it back and share it. So I'm happy that we're at least one of hopefully several organizations that we're not charging for any of the services or any help. Why would you charge to consult with somebody that already, like you said, doesn't have any money?
Exactly. What am I going to pay you with?
Right, right,
Right.
right.
um, okay. I would love we're gonna figure out a way. Slay Nation, I feel like this can help people. I love that this
Mhm,
is your nonprofit and what these crash courses are and all this kind of stuff. Slay Nation, stay tuned. We're gonna figure out a way to like help get this information to you when it's ready. Because I think this is important. I think there's a lot of like privileged information that doesn't need to be. I feel like, you and I kind of talked a little bit offline a little bit about, you being a black woman and not really being taught these things or like kind of having a lot of questions around it. I know myself, like I wasn't taught a lot about investment as an Asian American woman. Being first gen, there's a lot of like money trauma.
mhm,
Uh considering they like my parentals did not have money growing up, so when money came in it was like very scarce and we held on to it very 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 tight, and we saved,
mhm,
we save, and it's the limited a belief of like there's only so much, so you have to figure out what you're going to do with it, kind of a
mhm,
situation, which doesn't exactly gel with a lot of what's happening. But I know that there's still a lot of people that have that mindset. And
mhm,
it's very real. Like I still have that mindset sometimes. I have to actively be like, oh, this is a neural pathway we've ran so many times that it's very deep. We got to start making other ones. So I want us to kind of, to wrap up this interview a little bit. Like let's speak to this situation and like
mhm.
speak upon your experience and communities that you work with and all that kind of stuff. Like what are some thoughts that get us stuck in these mindsets to where it's like this mountain is so freaking high and big, I don't know if I can like climb it.
Well, I mean, one of the first things is we first just need to all stay in our lane. You know, if you don't have the money for something, you don't have the money for it, and just not be so embarrassed or feel bad about it because I mean, that's your situation. I mean, when I think about all of the money that I spent to, do certain things with people that I'm probably not even still friends with now or impress people that are not in my life anymore. I mean, it's stupid. That could have been savings right there.
Mm,
But we all want to be accepted. We all want to have a sense of belonging. And so you sometimes join into groups that are doing things above what you can afford. And, staying in your lane looks like, oh, everybody is about to leave the country and go out of town. They want you to go on the girls' trip too. Well, if you're being real with yourself and you can't afford it, why not just offer to host the bon voyage for everybody at your house or, something like that that's more affordable that is in your lane instead of maxing out credit cards to keep up.
yeah.
So I feel like, that's just one part of it. And social media messes it up so much because I mean, I love the positive things that social media has brought us and all of the positive information and inspiration, but so much is smoke and mirrors. I have several clients that are influencers. And so I know firsthand what their real finances are and what it looks like
It's not
on
real.
screen.
It's not real.
Some of it's not real. I mean, some people really are walking the walk, but some of it's not real. And so, that goes back to, comparing yourself and just stay in your lane. Let's stop comparing ourselves. Be happy for what you have because there's somebody else that would love what you have,
Mm.
even though you might not think that it's much. And um the fear, it's hard to almost like face those fears because I remember in, the at the my rock bottom point of all of that trauma because it was, emotional, physical, financial. I mean, I had trauma coming out of my ears, but it was just letting down that guard and just being honest with myself first. I'm not saying everybody needs to go and shout all their business out over the on the airways like I did. I mean, it helped me. I mean, it might help, but that honesty is that first step. I remember being so ashamed and so embarrassed. Like I said, I mean, you would never tell somebody at work, "Oh, I just got evicted," or "My car just got repossessed," or I have a negative account balance and I have rent due today. Like you would never discuss these things, but I feel like we should
Yeah.
because those are the things that actually connect us. I feel like that is most vulnerable, on top of maybe talking about emotionally traumatic things that have happened to you, but we all need financial stability to survive. It is the foundation of our lives. And it's not about having more, because if you have more and you're not literate in what to do with it and how to spend it and what a budget is and how to invest, then more is just going to get messed up also.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. Okay, Michelle, where can people find you, follow you, all of the things?
Sure. So the best place to find me is bymichellecampbell.com. It's just by michellecampbell.com because it has everything that I do on that site. So it's my financial services business, it's my nonprofit, it's the book, it's even the dogs company, and I am the queen of being an entrepreneur and different things. I mean, I have a couple different partnerships that aren't on there yet, but they're going to be on there. So just everything that I'm involved in can be found on that site.
Love that. Thank you so much for joining. I feel like we covered such a short amount, we covered a lot in a short amount of time, if I can speak correctly. But I feel like a lot of this stuff is so important. Where can people find your book? I know it's on Amazon right now.
Yeah, it's Amazon, it's on Barnes and Noble, it's on the Mascot Books website, it's on my book website, which is bluebirdmemoir.com. Um, all book proceeds go to my nonprofit. And because they go to a nonprofit, then the purchase of the book is tax deductible if you itemize. So, kind
Ooh.
of like two perks. Yeah, I'm not pocketing a penny from telling 21 years of journal entries to the world.
Oh my gosh. I love that. But also too, like I'm a really, really big fan of, what you're doing as far as the hashtag stability goes,
Hmm.
as well. I think that's very needed. So like I said before, Slay Nation, stay tuned because we're gonna try and figure out a way to kind of get that to you as soon as it's up and running. But until then, thank you so much for listening. As always, Slay Nation, we are here for you. And make sure to like, subscribe, do all the things, leave a review. Your reviews absolutely help us get this episode and others out to more people. So please help. And Michelle, thank you for joining us. Really, really appreciate this conversation.
Thank you so much. That was fun.
Oh my gosh. All right. See you later, Slay Nation.